We have some things we need to discuss. I will be doing another very revealing video. It's going to show you what kind of reader I am. My lack of follow through is probably one of my biggest problems, which is something I should bring up in therapy tomorrow.
Walking around, feeling free, thinking about what's happened to me from July up till now. Don't know where, don't know how.
So today we're going to talk about every single series that I am currently in the middle of that I will be carrying into 2024. There's over 20. I will count them, but right now I just want to get started because I am surrounded by my failure. And it is killing me. It's killing me. Let's get right into it. First, we have a bit of a throwback, at least to me, and that is this series right here. We have Renegades and Arch Enemies. Renegades book 1. I read this. Renegades came out in 2017, which means I read it in 2017. And then I bought book 2 because I had a good time with it. And through every unhaul, every moving my shelves around, they have outlasted that. But I have not once thought about picking up book 2. Not once. Can't get rid of them. Can't seem to read it. I think there's a third book in this series too, which I don't own, but that's okay. Next we have another throwback. These are books that I also bought in the very beginning of my second chapter of my reading journey. So I had my first chapter, reading as a kid, into young adulthood, and then I had a bit of a rebirth, if you will, in my mid-20s when I started reading all over again. And these were part of that era. I read Children of Blood and Bone in probably 2018, maybe even 2017. Can't remember exactly, but I then picked up book 2 when it came out, and I never read it. And I have been wondering actually about what's going on with this series, and I just recently saw when I was looking at new releases for 2024, apparently book 3 will be coming out this year. I thought it was over. It's not over. That might be enough incentive to pick this up finally, but I'm not gonna lie, 1000% need to reread this first. 1000%. Excited to get into Hellbent. I have been so excited to get into Hellbent since it was released. I keep telling myself I have to reread this first, and I have not done so yet. So it's at the top of my list next year. I swear I'm gonna make it happen if it's the last thing I do. Then we have A Court of Silver Flames. Why have I not finished this? Because I was bored. I started it, and then I put it down, but it is killing me because it is literally the only Sarah J. Maas book that is out in the universe that I have not read yet, and I really do need to finish it. I need to finish it because she's about to release another book. I just want to close the chapter on this series, which I don't even know if the series is over. Does anyone actually know? Do we know? Does anyone know? Who knows? Next, we have the Jade City Greenbone Saga trilogy. I read book 1 this year and I absolutely loved it. And then for some reason, I didn't pick up the second 2. Probably because they're super long, probably because I heard they will break you, but I'm dying to read them. So they're definitely a priority next year. I need to just do it. I need to just pick it up and do it and make it happen. Next, we have the Every Heart a Doorway series. I have read this book, this book, this book, and this book. I have not read these 3, and I think there's another 1 or 2 already out, and she always puts out the next one in like January, February of every year, so there will probably be another one coming out very soon. One of these days, I want to binge the entire thing in a reading vlog. That has always been my plan, even before I had a channel, but now it really is my plan. So one of these days, I will reread these, and then I will dive into these and the new books. And do you think she's ever going to stop writing in this series? Because I'm starting to get a little bit overwhelmed. It's a lot of books. I know they're teeny tiny, but it's a lot of books, right? Next we have Serpent and Dove. I was obsessed with this series. Book 1, so good. Book 2 was just okay. And this is the finale. It's the last book. So I should just read it to say I have some closure. But I haven't. I haven't done it. I don't know when I will. I've put it on several TBRs. One of these days, it's gonna stick. I swear it. I swear it. The longer it takes, the more I'm thinking I need to reread all of them. So we have The Beautiful and The Damned. And I think there are 1, if not 2, other books in this series. I was absolutely in love with this. It was such a fun, atmospheric, vampire-y time. Very reminiscent of like the originals, but it's set in the past. It was really, really fun. And then I bought The Damned. I'm very angry that these don't match. That's what happens when you buy the first book in a series from Book of the Month. I've learned my lesson, but I never picked up book 2. And I have added book 3 to my cart on Amazon probably 30 times this year. Never followed through. One day I will. Today's not that day. How many are we at right now? 8. That's not bad. That's not even that bad. Guys, acting like this is awful. That's not bad. All right, next we have this beautiful series, Obsessed. Obsessed. One of my favorite YA series that I've ever read. Loved it. Book 2, loved it. Oh my God, it was so good. And it left on a cliffhanger. Why have I not picked up book 3? Why do I do anything? Honestly, I don't have answers for you. I have no answers for you. I want to. I will one day. I don't know why I haven't done it yet. Another YA series that I love, Kingdom of the Wicked. I read book 1. It was really good. I read book 2. It was great. Haven't read book 3 yet. And now she has a new series set in the same world that just came out. So the clock is ticking. I am under a time crunch now. Keeping the YA train rolling, I have The Naturals by Jennifer Lynn Barnes. I read book 1 and then I bought the rest of them and I have not continued with the series. This was very recent, so I don't think I need to reread, which is nice for once, but I really want to continue with the series, and they're such fast reads that like there's no reason for me to be putting them off. But I am. Similarly, A Good Girl's Guide to Murder. My plan was to read all 3 for a reading blog dedicated to this series because it is such a favorite amongst so many people. Read book 1, absolutely loved it. And then I moved on with my life. Are you sick of me yet? Because I'm really getting sick of myself at this point. Sick of my excuses, sick of my lack of any common sense whatsoever. Sick of it. Another Jennifer Lynn Barnes. Read book 1, bought the other 2. A new one came out recently, never continued. Always meant to, never did. One day I will. Then we have our dear Pierce Brown. I'm obsessed with this series. And yet every time I pick up one of the books, it takes me forever to actually read it. Loved this. Loved it. Then I tried to read this, DNF'd it. Reread this, tried to read this again, DNF'd it. Reread this again, tried to read this and finally finished it, but then did not pick up Morningstar. Don't know why. This is a 5-star series for me. And there are so many new books that have come out in this series that are like companion trilogy situations. I don't even know what they're called at this point, but there's like 3 or 4 other books in this series. I have Iron Gold, and then there's Dark Age, whatever just came out this year. I want to keep living in this world, even though it breaks me every time, but I'm intimidated still. I don't know why. 2 books in and I'm still intimidated. Make it make sense. Oh my gosh, guys, we are closing in on the end. I'm gonna have to count this all over again. Damn it. We are at 14. Somebody remember that number for me. 14. 15. This is number 15. The 5th Season by N.K. Jemisin. This was one of the hardest books to get through for me. By the end though, obsessed. Fully obsessed. But there was not a piece of me that was ready to go into book 2. Not even a bit of my soul was prepared. This is a difficult world to comprehend, to be involved in, to understand, and I just didn't have it in me. I don't know if I ever will have it in me. Want to, but I don't know. There's still a 3rd book too. At least I don't own that one. I bought the first 2 before I even read this one. I need to learn my lesson about doing that, don't I? This one, I don't know if I should count. This is The Stolen Heir by Holly Black. It's a continuation, companion, sequel-ish book to the Cruel Prince series. It technically does not belong in the original trilogy, so technically it's a new series. So technically I'm not really in the middle of it, but I kind of also am, you know? Now we're getting into some romance. The Chestnut Spring series minus book 1 and 2, which I have lent out. I only have to read this one, and in my defense, it only came out a month ago. In my defense. But normal me would have picked it up immediately as soon as it came out. Current me is really struggling to focus on any book. I don't want to read it when I'm in a slump. I want to read it when I can really, truly love it because I love this series so much. So it's coming with me to 2024, unless I get a spark of inspiration in the next, month. And another Elsie Silver series. I don't actually remember what this is called. I guess I should look. Gold Rush Ranch? Does that sound accurate to anyone? Gold Rush Ranch. Okay. Picked these up because I love Chestnut Springs so much, and at the time there were no new books in that series that I hadn't read yet. So I got these. And I read the first 2, quite enjoyed them. Started this one and I never finished it. So these 2 I still have not read. Still on the TBR. Sophie Lark's Brutal Birthright series. I think that's what it's called. This is just the first 3. I want to say there's 6. I think I own all of them and I own 6. So I think there's 6. I read these 3, but I have not read the other 3. And they're currently propping up some other books, so I didn't want to take them off the shelf. Just, okay? These are good. These are fine. They're fun. They're good for when you're having a hard time focusing on some of the books you really want to read, because these will just sort of clear your palette, clear your mind. They're mindless, easy books to read. And they're pretty smutty, which is fun when you're in the mood for that, I suppose, you know? Which is not often, which is why I haven't finished it. We are back to fantasy. The Three Dark Crowns series, I have read book 1, 2, and 3. Why did I not finish? The world may never know. Will I ever finish? The world may never know. Similarly, Red Queen. This I read so long ago. Again, it was like first when I was getting back into reading, like in the very beginning when I was getting back into reading in my early 20s. It was the first time I had read a fantasy since I was probably 16 maybe. And I was like, this is so good. Oh my goodness. Looking back now, is it? Who is to say? Probably not, but who knows? I feel like these are going to be super dated. I know there's more in the series, but I also, again, I just can't bring myself to let them go. I feel like one day it's going to be so much fun to reread this and dive into the rest of the series just for like nostalgic reasons, you know? We're in the home stretch, guys. Queen of the Tearling. Read it, loved it, could not tell you a single thing about it. If and when I ever pick up the second book, I will have to reread this one. I also think there's more books in this series, but I could be completely wrong because it's been that long since I've even glanced its way, honestly. Kiss of Deception. Read book 1, loved book 1, tried to start book 2, couldn't get into it, but I still am holding out hope that one of these days I will finish this series and then I can move on to Dance of Thieves, which is like the sequel companion to this series, and I'm dying to read it because I've heard nothing but amazing things about it. So I need some motivation, guys. I need someone to just like stand over me and force me to do the right thing. You know what I mean? 2 more. That's it. 2 more. This one is super random. Jennifer L. Armentrout, Storm and Fury. Hadn't heard a thing about this when it came out. Haven't heard a thing about it since. But I picked it up because it was a fantasy option on Book of the Month, and that's rare when they offer a fantasy option. So I bought it, and it was a good time. It was a good enough time that I went out and got book 2. And then I never picked it up again. Do I know what the series is about? No. Do I know if there's more books in this series? No. Do I know if I'll ever read it? No. Only time will tell. And the final series sitting here. I hesitated even including because in my heart of hearts, more than any other series I just held up, this is the one I would say is the least likely for me to complete in my lifetime. I feel like some of you are probably picturing some like epic fantasy, like some crazy like Way of Kings or like Name of the Wind, which like the books aren't even finished being written, so that's why I would never complete them. No, that's not what I'm talking about. I am not talking about some literary masterpiece series. I'm talking about Zodiac Academy. I only own the first 2 books, and I have read both of them. As far as I'm aware, based on seeing one of them in the Goodreads Choice Awards this year, which was shocking. As far as I'm aware, there are currently 8 books in this series. These are not good, and I was entertained by them, I would say 30% of the time. However, every time I hear a single person talk about this, I want to read this series. Every single time. Am I easily swayed by others' feelings and opinions? Yeah. And I'm not ashamed of it, okay? That is often the reason I pick books up. And anytime someone talks about this series, they talk about it with such vigor and love, and it just makes me want to join in the conversation. It does. I'm not gonna lie. So will I ever read the rest of these? I make no promises, but I want to. I do. I want to. So that is 24 series that I have physically in my house and I am currently in the middle of that will be coming with me into 2024. There are several off the top of my head that I could have included in this video, and that is because I began the first book, but I never actually completed the first book. So until I complete the first book, I'm not counting it. There are also others that technically I am also in the middle of, but the next book has not come out yet. So I can't read it until it's published. So that's not my fault. That's not on me. These are the ones that there are books out currently that I haven't read yet. Okay? These are all the series that I am in the middle of. There there are 24 of them. That is an overwhelming number, especially considering a new book comes out every year, a new book, a new series. This is what happens when you're into fantasy. Fantasy especially. When you are into fantasy, it's damn near impossible to get a standalone in the fantasy genre. It happens, but not often. All right, y'all, that is the end of this video. And that is the end of my coffee. 24 series coming with me into 2024. I just realized how appropriate that is. It's like it was meant to be. Oh my goodness. Does that mean there's gonna be 25 next year? Oh God. Good Lord. Anyway, if you made it this far, leave a coffee emoji in the comments down below, because that is the only thing on my brain right now is caffeine. And I won't be taking any questions at this time. Thank you so much for watching. As always, I appreciate every single one of you. And I will see you in another video very soon. Hopefully. Bye.
No, it's the time of the year when